What's up, guys? Wanted to come to you with a video about one of my favorite franchises, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. As a child who grew up in the 90s, one of the best things was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon show. I love that show. Grew up watching it. Sadly, I haven't seen it in decades, but man, I remember watching it all the time. I had all the action figures and everything, and I watched all the live action movies, and something that's been disappointing has been the more recent movies and the more recent cartoons. And I think the biggest problem is my favorite character, Donatello. Now, I talk a lot about how people just don't understand the characters, or they change the characters for the worse. And I think one of those is Donatello. I love Donatello. For those of you who don't know, Donatello has the bow staff, and I've always loved him. I used to identify with Raphael when I was younger because I had more of an anger problem than I do now. But so I kind of felt with him. But after a while, Donatello became my favorite because he was the smart one. He thought before he acted. He was funny, which Leo and Ralph weren't usually. And and I love the bow staff. The bow staff was my favorite of the weapons. So and I like the color purple. Purple and green I think works really well together. And so I always liked Donnie. He's my favorite now, and but I feel like people don't really understand him now. So one of the problems that I have today is that these movies that portray Donatello, they overcome what they can write as a weakness, saying that he's the weakest of the turtles with technology. And I'm just like, Donnie's always been smart. He was the smart one. Like, if one was definitely gonna graduate college or whatnot, it was Donnie. But he never needed technology to fight because he was a master of the bow staff. And I guess some people might think a bow staff is the weakest of the fighting weapons, ninja weapons, but I think it's one of the strongest. And because you're like, oh, well, you're just bringing a stick to a sword. Well, yeah, that's not how it works. Just like when you're sword fighting, you think of like the edges hitting each other, but really when you're blocking a sword, you're trying to hit the side so that you don't break your sword or chip your sword. And the same thing is true with your bow staff. You're trying to block the sword away, and or the other weapons, and get them pinned. And I'm just gonna tell you, like, there's a reason that Darth Maul is awesome, because he had a double-bladed lightsaber, and so like he could go straight from a defensive block to an offensive attack. And the same was with Donatello. Like, he'd be able to go real quick, shifting from offensive to defensive, or vice versa, and it makes it very powerful. But Donatello's not weaker. Like, if you're gonna say one's weaker, it would be Michelangelo, and that's more probably because he eats so much and probably cares less about exercise than the others. And so, of course, Ralph's gonna be the strongest. Leo and Donnie will probably be about the same, and then Mikey would be just under. I mean, they're all real close. So Ralph's obviously the strongest, but the other three aren't that weaker than he is. He's not that much stronger than they all are. They're all very much the same. And yeah, so I hated that they made him so weak. They're like, oh, well, I'm the weakest turtle, and he's got all these self-depression issues. I'm like, why would you have that? Like, you're a Ninja Turtle. You're one of the strongest. You're stronger than most humans. Like, come on, man. Like, you're not that. You're very strong. He's always been that way. And in the modern movies, they make him where he needs the technology to even the balance. So, uh, so think of it like one of my favorite characters, Tim Drake. He's tied with Dick Grayson as my favorite hero. And if you don't know who that is, he's the third Robin, and Dick is the first Robin. But Tim Drake isn't the strongest Robin. So it was advised for him to pick up the bow staff to balance out. He may have been the smartest Robin, but he wasn't the strongest by any means. And so he would lose in most fights because he's not the strongest. So he picks up the bow staff to balance out his weakness. And so having that weapon, which most of the other Robins didn't need, makes him stronger. And actually, you kind of see a similar take with the four Robins as you do with the Turtles. Like Tim has the staff, you have Damian who has swords, you have, I guess Jason Todd has the guns, but and none of the Turtles have guns. But I mean, he's the one with all the anger problems. Well, Damian does too, but he's got anger issues, so you could say like the guns are equivalent of the Sai, and then you have Dick who has the nunchuck things, although they're not technically nunchucks, but I forget what they call them. Yeah, so I didn't really mean to go down that rant, but that was fun. But yeah, so similarly, like what they're like, Tim uses the bow staff to even out him being the weakest, but that's not the case with Donatello. Donatello is just as strong as his brothers, pretty much. He's just smarter. So he's definitely the smartest. He is good with technology, but in the modern like movies and stuff, he's much weaker, and he has to balance it out with technology. And I've never liked that. Like Donatello doesn't like the Ninja Turtles don't need technology. All they need is ninja abilities. And so I think like you're taking away like the essence of the character. Like, aren't you a ninja? Like, you don't need to be super strong necessarily. You're a ninja. Like, you're a super good fighter, and that's all you really need. I mean, it helps to be strong, but they're not as strong as the Shredder. But they can beat him because they're together with the four of them, their ninja power can beat him. Or they get Splinter to come in and take him out, which is always fun. But technology gets in the way of the main idea, which is ninja. Okay, I think it's cool that he can create cool technological things and use them in battle. But like having super powered skateboards, that's dumb. Like, what's wrong with just regular skateboards? I think when that first movie came out and I was watching it, watching them skateboard through the New York sewer system was funny. It was great. So it's just like kind of made you want to go skateboarding. You didn't need technology. I feel like that's one thing with the Turtles. Like, they're ninjas. Ninjas don't need technology. They just need ninja weapons. And I really hate that. Like, so they're taking away one of my favorite characters, Donatello, and making him less of a character, making him reliant on something other than his ninja skills and his strength. All the ninja needs is not technology. Technology probably a hindrance. All the ninja needs is his weapon and his wits. And so, like, yeah, that's it. Like, know your moves. Keep your cool, have your weapon with you, and bam, you don't even need a weapon. You're a ninja. You can do it with your hands. The weapon just is an augment to help enhance your natural strength. You don't need the technology. It's okay to have the technology, but don't make it so reliant on that. Like, it's like the weapons of the Turtles. If the Turtles lose all their weapons, Leo loses swords, Mikey loses his nunchucks, Donatello loses his bow staff, and Ralph loses his sais, they can still fight. They can still beat everybody because they don't need those weapons. Those weapons are an extension of who they are. If Donatello loses all of his technology, loses his bow staff, he doesn't need them. He can still fight and be effective and still beat the bad guy because he's strong enough with his natural abilities of ninja fighting to beat anybody that comes across his way. Now, I mean, of course, Shredder's not going to be able to be beaten by them without their weapons. But, you know, their main bad guys like Bebop and Rocksteady, they'll be beaten. Like the Brain, going to be beaten. Some of these guys, they're going to be beaten without any, they don't need the weapons. Your super bads, you're gonna need weapons to beat them. But your average foot soldier, you don't need them. You got a hard shell, you can block any kind of sword that might kill you, and then you got your hands. Your fists are just as viable a weapon as anything. So the problem for me isn't that they use technology, because I think this can be cool. My problem is when they lessen who Donatello is and substitute technology, because that's not who Donatello is. Donatello is an equal fighter to his brothers who adds an augment of being super smart and technologically able to make things that out of technology. And he's always tinkering with stuff, just like Mikey's always eating stuff. And just like Ralph is always fuming over something, and Leo's always plotting something. So it's just like that's who he is. He likes to build stuff and think about like problems and technology and science and stuff. It's not that he needs it to be as good a fighter. So I really hate the changes that they've made to Donatello's character. I think that it really just lessens him as a character and makes him less interesting. And they haven't really explained why he's weaker. They all had the same ooze. Secret of the ooze! They've all had the ooze. They've all the same age, pretty much. They're all turtles. What makes Donatello weaker? Who knows? They're just saying, oh, he's weaker, so he has to have technology. What? What makes him weaker? What? He's the exact same as his brothers. They're all the same. Of course, Ralph trains harder, so he's going to be stronger, and he's madder, so he uses more rage, so he's stronger. But barely. Like, they're all the same strength. They're all the same age. Like, they're all the same, come from the same place. What makes him weaker than the others? Explain that. Like, there's nothing, he doesn't need this technology. He's adequate as a fighter. Honestly, they could all switch weapons and probably still be okay. So, anyways, I hate it when my favorite characters get messed with. Like, just leave it alone. You know, I know that they wanted to like make it really cool and stuff, having new technology and stuff, and super skateboards and stuff. But don't make that your plot. Don't make that the plot of your movie. Like, oh, you've got to build this to save everybody. Well, I mean, just. The turtles need to go in and fight people with their ninja skills or their weapons. That's how you beat the bad guy, not by creating some technology that somebody else could have come up with and didn't need to be a Ninja Turtle to defeat. Like, make your heroes be the heroes, not, technology. So, anyways, that's what my thoughts. I love the turtles. I've loved them ever since I was a little kid, and I had all the action figures, had the bus that opened up, and little pizzas that turned into Ninja Stars. So that was always fun. I used to play around with them all the time as a kid. And let me know. Do you like the Ninja Turtles? Or what do you think about the newer movies, the modern adaptations of them? What do you think about Donatello and his technological hobby and how they've portrayed that recently? Let me know. And I'll catch you next time. Peace.